Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekends with Amit, and I am your host, Krishanu. The subject that we are going to discuss today affects us all, whether directly or indirectly. The way we live our life, the way we shape our future, and not only us, the way the planet is affected. This only orb which we can call our home. And that is leadership. And particularly, we are talking about leadership in business. And why do we say that? Is because of various reasons. Things are not as they should be. Today, one of the biggest challenges that we are facing is because of pollution, this heat waves, the other kind of natural calamities. Every day, there is some kind of a fire or the other. In general, our climate changes are affecting our planet, the way we live, the way we see our future. And much of the disaster, much of the crisis that we see today can be attributed to the way the businesses have uh, performed, the businesses have done their job, or businesses, the way they have forgot about the consequences of their action. And businesses are run by people, businesses are run by leaders. And there comes the leadership, which does not necessarily affect a small group of people, but has the potential to affect on a planetary scale. Today, we are going to discuss about quantum leadership. Why quantum leadership? We will come to know in a while. But suffice to say that we need to change the way leadership works for us to survive. It's no longer just a fancy term. It is something which is necessary for our next generations to be happy on this planet. On this note, let me invite Professor Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Anisar. A very warm welcome to both of you. The subject today is quantum leadership, and I was wondering, um, a lot of things that we see today which are undesirable would be fallout of faulty leadership, if I can say that. The way leaders approach problems. I have spent quite a few years, more than 1.5 decades into corporates. I have seen up close and personal how leadership in those areas function, how cold-blooded actions are encouraged, how display of emotions are discouraged, several other things, and how one can only pursue the goal no matter at what cost. And these are greatly encouraged. They are given like prizes, bonuses, things, and that to do things that eventually trickles down very badly to common people. So I would like to share, I'd like to have your views on this and how quantum leadership can make a lasting change to these things.
Are
Professor
you ask?
Goswami.
Okay, I was okay. So let's talk about quantum leadership from quantum physics point of view. What does quantum physics bring to leadership? But first of all, a concise statement of why we need a quantum leader. A little more details than what Kishan already mentioned. Of course, climate change and question of pollution. These things are talked about constantly. We have electric cars, we have sustainable solar energy and wind energy devices today and practice. So we have made some improvement. What we haven't made improvement uh, is, of course, still noticeable. Global warming goes on. Reports of ocean current changing, uh, higher atmosphere problem with this huge El Nino, and what is the El name? Anyway, El Nino related, it's a mess. And that mess is not going away because the steps that need to be taken goes at the heart of the economy capitalism. Uh, Capitalism basically has one very bad requirement, which is that it has to expand. And the expansion requires more and more consumption, energy and goods. And both of these, any consumption will produce pollution. And one of the consequences also is the climate change that we constantly talk about or do nothing about in a substantial way. The changes required are really very global, and people have to participate in it. It's not just leaders, but leaders have to lead people by example and by making real efforts to inspire people to make these changes. We cannot, in other words, sustain the lifestyle that we live. But people don't change their lifestyle often. They have become used to, especially in the developed countries. But this is not the only problem. So let's switch to other problems. There is one problem that people talk about also incessantly in countries like United States, because the income disparity between the lower level of people, low income people, and the high income people, the highest level of people, has become enormous, even bigger, much bigger than what caused French Revolution a couple of centuries ago. So are we looking for and purposely creating conditions that will lead people to create another revolution of the proportion of French Revolution? These questions have become real. But that's a political issue to some extent, but it is also a business issue. Can businesses do something about this income disparity? Another very fantastic issue that has been created that you must be aware of. There is on the internet incessant talk about this generative artificial intelligence programs. ChatGPT is the famous example. And these programs are challenging the basic efficacy of human beings if they stick to the rational mode. In other words, computer programs are showing promises that they already can figure out things based on rational thinking than human beings. They're already being used to chart what is the healing strategy with allopathy, already being used to chart prediction of stock market and the various things like that, which human beings used to do. So what does that mean to you? Well, human beings are not needed because the computers can do it better. The programs can do it better. So we are going to have a total revision, not just, a few years ago it was robotics, automatization of the assembly line practices of businesses, the industries that we talked about. Robotics have now taken a second place. The first place is changing in the way that educated people work, desk jobs work. Those works are coming to end because they will be all done by these generative AI programs. How do you handle that? People literally will not have any jobs to do. And this is coming within next couple of decades. Impending. If we don't prepare for leadership in this area and know what the leaders have to do, we are stuck. We are in sheer disaster situation. So we talk about today's crisis. Yes, there's the economic crisis, there's political crisis, worldview crisis, polarization between religion and science to insane proportions. Now, I must tell you a joke that Valentina told me earlier. Otherwise, she will tell you the joke. Do you know that cataract is only a third reason for blindness? What are the other two? Can you guess? And the other two are: one, religion; two, scientific materialism. These dogmas have created the blindness that we are talking about. The blind leaders who cannot lead, who continue to do more of the same and destroying business, politics, everything, culture. We might say, well, why do we need leaders? It just so happens human beings are built that way. We, in quantum science, we even know the reason. We have literally a phenomenon called reincarnation. Some people are born with better qualities because they had many more incarnations to learn all these qualities. Other people are relatively new in the game and therefore they don't have the savvy of these interesting qualities. And some of these qualities are called leadership qualities. For example, taking chances, taking risk, having more courage than normal people, having more confidence. Having more confidence and therefore having a little more creativity, a little more ability to handle all the rational thinking that computers are now threatening that they can do better, even better. But until now, leaders have been doing those things, and that's what separates them. They also have additionally charisma. Charisma is something, an acting ability, presenting a persona that you fall in love with. That's your popular model. That's what creates name and fame. Charisma. These charismatic leaders can mislead you, but you will never know that you are being misled. You will be willfully manipulated by them. This is true of business leaders who throw various programs of publicity to mislead us, marketing techniques to mislead us, and also politicians who do very similar things to mislead us in politics. Manipulate the followers. Charisma. Communication based on charisma. Communication based on dishonesty. Scientific materialism and religion both contribute to this because they are both sources, big sources of misinformation. If people get the right information, they could wake up. But because misinformation can easily be used today, no thanks to social media, their job has become to throw misinformation at people. It's very strange, no? Because look at the social medium called Twitter. This Twitter started with a wonderful image. You know, what is the image of a bird tweeting? Poets write about that. Free like a bird, sing like a bird with the spontaneous joy. That's what the poets say. So that's the image we had when we see the Twitter. Poignant messages between people that can be exchanged in a matter of moments. And that indeed did some good. The Arab Spring movement that you may remember a few years ago, and then the Occupy Wall Street movement in America, there are examples of how the youth woke up to find freedom, to find meaning and purpose in their life because of the quick communication available on such media as Twitter. But over the years, misinformation took over. And the leadership at Twitter had no idea or no desire to prevent misinformation because misinformation people like. That's where the money is. Money took over the priority. And then finally, a billionaire now has taken over, and the billionaire has, in fact, this is probably an appropriate thing to do. Twitter is no longer the appropriate image of the that particular business. So we got rid of the image and put an X on it. Let's see what it means. We'll have to wait. That's just an example. So at once we have a problem of human beings having no fixed direction to find job, and if you cannot find jobs for human beings to do, there would be pure mayhem. People cannot live without work to do. It's a very serious business. How do we let our businesses change to solve these problems. One impending, not here yet, quite not here yet, already beginning, but not quite here yet. But the other two are already there. The income disparity, the leadership confusion, the presenting charisma, manipulated communication, misinformation in communication. These are the things that we can actually check via a different worldview. What happened in scientific materialism is something that is totally an inviter of disaster in society. What happened was that the creed, matter is everything. Material interactions caused all of our experiences, including consciousness. That creed creates the idea that the human being is an nincompoop. When if you think of you as an nincompoop, then you can easily be manipulated by others who know better. So this is a purposeful, deliberate lie that the so-called leaders, in this case intellectual leaders at the big famous universities around the world, they have created the specific lie that science is telling us everything is matter. Science is very far from telling us that. Science is nowhere about telling us that. Already this particular lie has been proven untrue by many experiments, both in the physical realm, elementary particle realm, and also in the human realm for brains. The latest result on the brain, I'll share you that because this is very fresh in my mind, has proven that the neural network model called global workspace model of consciousness is plain wrong. Because when we see something, the brain does perform what is called unconscious stuff before it goes to what can be called the central processing unit. That is the way the global workspace theory is built. It's a computer-like theory. So brain is supposed to have a central processing unit, and until the information reaches central processing unit, nothing else can happen. That's the model. But this newest neuroscience data is showing that lots of things happen. After the stimulus does its work through the preliminary lens and retina and all that stuff, then there is processing by higher brain apparatuses to produce an electrical image. And then we have to give meaning to that. And that brings in problems for the central processing unit model. In other words, brain cannot be a computer. In quantum, we say brain is used by consciousness. Consciousness identified itself with the brain in the process of what we call quantum measurement, converting quantum possibilities into actuality. This is just one example of how scientific materialism has proven to be wrong. But we are not responding quickly enough. So first of all, the business leaders have to respond. Political leaders too have to respond. Social leaders, cultural leaders, they all have to respond to this changing worldview. The worldview is not scientific materialism. If we get this through our head and propagate this among the people, it will be much simpler to at least solve the pollution, the global climate change problem. Because the truth has to be faced. The truth is that we cannot sustain the lifestyle in developed countries that is prevalent today. We don't have that ability to live in a closed environment. The analogy is often given that we live on spaceship Earth, and it cannot handle so much consumption. We have to reduce. We have to reduce our consumption. And leaders have to lead us to do that. And leaders have to do that by changing their habits and businesses. Second, we need leaders which has to show that human beings are more than machines. Quantum physics already has discovered what is special in human being, creativity and intuitive ability. We see meaning, we see purpose in our life. Leaders have been deliberately telling us via scientific materialism that there is no purpose. Eat, drink, and be merry. That's all human beings can do. That's going on for thousands of years. Civilization has not been created by people, all of them eating, drinking, and merriment. No. Civilization is produced by those people who engage with creativity and archetypes, engage with meaning and purpose, which is part of human life. So these things have to come back into society again. Why are archetypes ignored? You know why? Because the advanced cultures in the world, advanced meaning economically advanced cultures in the world, they all have become rational. They neglect the emotional blatantly. Emotions don't exist, except negative emotions, which are defined as brain's response to negative stimuli, stressful stimuli. No, emotions are much more than that. We all know that we have positive emotion. We have ability to laugh. We have ability to enjoy. We have ability to be happy. Why do we choose to be unhappy then? Well, we do have built-in negative emotional brain circuits, and problem with positive emotion is that it is in potentiality. We have to manifest them. And the manifestation of that requires creativity and archetypes, meaning and purpose and all that. But that is the human prerogative to do these things. And that way, we avoid being machines. And this is something that the machines cannot do. Machines cannot engage in emotions. They can fake them, of course. They can say any words the programmers like them to say. That is part of the programs that they learn from. So a machine can fool you. Oh, I'm so sad. It may even sound very sad. But that is just taking on the sound that is already on the internet, which is used for their learning base. They're just imitating. They're not really feeling anything. They're not experiencing anything. Only you can do that. If these feelings are acknowledged, then we get a very different pictures of the world than the materialist presents it. Materialist picture agrees with the rational mind very well. That's why they like it. Rational mind that even ignores the idea of creativity. But a human mind, rationality is not the predominant mode that we live. We live the emotional mode much more. Except that it is negative emotion because that's already built in, and few of us who cultivate positive emotions, only they got to have an emotional equanimity and capacity of being happy. Rest of us are stupidly unhappy or engaged in pleasure. Pleasure is the one source of positivity in people's life. But that also brings often disaster for other people. One person's pleasure, other people have to pay for. So in this way, we really need a change in the worldview, a change in the way people live, and these things fundamentally have to do with the jobs people do, and this is where business leaders have come to play the way of business in a different way. Several years ago, I wrote and published a book called Quantum Economics. And now, with the help of our PhD students at the university, transformational university that we have created in conjunction with University of Technology at Jaipur, with their help, I'm now writing a new book called Quantum Leadership, what business leaders and businesses must do in order for us to survive the next few decades. And I lay out a program for this. We don't have the time today for going into all the programs, all the things that a quantum leader has to do, but I have touched the basic aspects already. Basic aspects is meaning, purpose, creativity, and emotions, positive emotions. Those are the main things. These things now can be included. Oh, I left out consciousness. That's the first important thing. We have to bring consciousness into the picture. We cannot pretend that people are robots while the leaders manipulate them. That's not consistent. Among robots, there is no manipulating robot and there is no unlearning robot. Robots are pretty democratic that way. It just depends on how the programs are being used for the robots, and if those programs are uniform, robots also will be uniform. There will be no leadership robot, which is the leader misguiding other follower robots. So human beings are not that way, just a simple dynamic of how leaders work to manipulate followers can show us. Don't be fooled by scientific materialism, in other words. That's the first step you take. Second step you take is to demand that worldview change come. How do you demand it? You start looking at it yourself and changing your own lifestyle by following it. You know what is good for you. Every human being knows that. But we don't do it because we like to be misled by simplistic solutions. Simplistic solution is that there is no values. We don't have to do anything. We can just go and earn our living so that we can eat, drink, and be merry. But as I said, merriment is not merriment, pure merriment. It's laced with so much sadness, so much suffering. And now we are destroying the very habitat, very special where we live. So give up these ideas of scientific materialism. Demand that our leaders start a new avenue to save humanity and save the spaceship Earth. And that is the thing that we do. We can do. And this is why we are doing this program. Okay, let Valentina speak some practical stuff. Valentina?
Right. Thank you. Hello, everybody. So, on the same vein, for example, what you can do right now is, because Amit mentioned so much about happiness and sufferance, and whenever we say to transform, to heal the world, of course, we speak about ourselves, our own journey, first of all, to be there. So, for example, you can simply check how happy you are right now, so you can make on a scale from 1 to 100. So in this very moment, how happy, how equilibrated, how much in harmony with your heart, with your life, with your relationships you are, So globally, you can say that you are on a scale, let's say 75. So it means ask yourself, where did I lose those 25 points, On other days, it can be 50 or 80. So in each moment, you need to be able to evaluate yourself and see where to act so you can get higher on this scale. And then again, another interesting question is part of this trip of transformation from the state of victim to the state of hero or heroine. Now, if you want, I made a webinar with Quantum Academy maybe 1 year ago about this, especially for women, but it's not just for women, of course, It's part of becoming aware again where we are and where we need to act. And once we identify in a state of deep awareness all these aspects that we need to work on, we can transform our attitude that can lead to a new aptitude and eventually transformation. For example, you can see who is really guilty for this missing 25%, let's say, and is there anyone or anything guilty? So let's say in the morning, maybe you are 100%, but then because of this physical problem or lack of attention, then you got 75%, and then you know where to work on, So when we let life take us unprepared, which we usually do, it's still a victim attitude, which is again an obstacle, of course, when we want to become leaders, and that's what we need to do nowadays. You have to really let go of this kind of attitude, the victim attitude. If we're not aware of our emotions, of all this negative thinking, negative emotions, especially, and attitudes or the reactions with the others, then again, it's really in the victim attitude. And there's a model of this, the hero. We call it the hero's journey. By the way, we have an upcoming program in India, in Jaipur, starting on 24th of September, a 10-day very intensive program. And this is the subject, the hero's journey. It's from morning to evening, and we have a lot of theory and of course practices and certain rituals and visiting certain places. So it's a very compact program. You will have the link and to see if you want more information to join us there. So it's a model that is known, and now we want to really practice it for ourselves, the hero's journey. Obviously, everybody speaks nowadays about the independent man, independent woman, especially, but that's not so much about the feminine. It's more like a feminist, which is not what we talk about. So we talk about blossoming and transforming, really manifesting our qualities, and again, check who you consider guilty to be for all those lackings that you may become aware, because in this society it's creating obstacles. But it's not just that, it's also our inner obstacles. Indeed, more and more information processing, me-centering, loneliness, again, all kind of addiction to entertainment, which really is taking all our energy, and then we create, of course, our own obstacles, because, of course, the jobs that we find is, don't give us an archetypal satisfaction, then, of course, there's a lot of competition, all this bourgeois effect, the predators. You can find more about this in a book that Amit wrote together with other people on quantum. How is it called? You will get it in the link. So it's about removing, becoming aware of the obstacles, and then learning how to remove them. But now the beautiful thing and practical thing is that the ancient yogis, they knew a lot about success, struggling with their own minds through hours, through days, through years of meditation. And then there's a moment when you break through the clouds, the victory that you can recognize. And there is a big connection between the qualities that we need to achieve as leaders or masters in our lives, and meditation, and also the state of success in general. When you say success and leadership, they go together. And becoming aware more and more about the science of human consciousness and the mechanisms of our mind, of course, many doors will open. And if we want to have a successful life, no matter what age, we also need to successfully work with the gravity instead of against it, kind of. And you need to check, it's not just about using all kind of motivational systems, which are actually hiding the real flow of life. It's very interesting. It's more, you need inspiration, not motivations, because this kind of, if it's just motivation of desires, they will make us act against our own deep needs, and they can rule really the real and the state of leader. You can say that this is desires and motivational factors can be called like the local drug dealers, and they can drive us to things which are out of sync, actually, with the universal laws and with ourselves and our needs. So, of course, we need to understand about the situation of the chakras when we say about leaders developing Manipura chakra in the first place, but not alone. Of course, it has to be also power and also love. We speak about the archetypes in this direction, how to learn how to sublimate your energies, and we speak about developing willpower in order to obtain the real goals. Because you know that willpower is corrupted into things which aren't really important. And even if you apparently obtain success, like for example, you get a lot of likes on Instagram, it can come also with other side effects, and it will not really make you happy. So also we speak about developing sattva and even balancing the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, as possible. And I like to do it. So along this line, again, you can get a lot, of course, in the book, which maybe will be published next year, Quantum Leadership, but also in joining this proximity program that we just invited you. Okay.
Well, Professor Goswami, if we could, is there Tom near you?
It just disappeared.
He is hot more than Valentina. So for viewers, just let me clarify that these two beautiful cats are now staying with Professor Goswami and Valentina, and they are taking quantum education directly from the horse's mouth.
Right, right.
They wanted to convey their
I have
own
the boat.
understanding. Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Uh, they are lovely. Okay. Now, what it boils down to me, if we look at a human being is a leader, or rather, a leader can be only a human being. Professor Goswami pointed out very well that there are no leader robots. It cannot be. So unless they are, they have their kind of the programming hierarchy, robots will be robots all the same. You can make any robot anything. Humans cannot be that way. So when we talk about change in the way leadership is done, it really boils down to how the human being changes, transforms. And the moment these things become character, part of the human, they cannot not do things that are out of the character. And those kind of qualities, as Professor Goswami already mentioned, can have a profound effect on the global leadership and the way we look at future. Those fears about not having enough jobs or the huge income inequality, right? The last IMF report, which came out in 2022, says that 10% of the people globally, I'm talking about, not only US is enormous, it is the worst case scenario, but I'm talking about globally, 10% of the people earn 52% of the money, and 50% of the global people, which is a whooping nearly 4 billion, they earn just 8.5%. Just imagine that. And this is not sustainable. So these profound changes are needed, first starting with human beings, what Valentina was talking about. That once we get people who are better, we get an organization which is better, and in turn, we get a better, what you said, starship?
Starship Earth.
Starship Earth, right? So that's a closed environment. So this is the only way, I think. Any last comment, Professor Goswami, before we wrap up?
Okay, as a last comment, I bring a further good news. We are going to continue this conversation next time. And our students, Krishanu is one himself, as he himself shared with you. He has been in management business for quite some time. And then we have another of our students, Greg Kern, who will also be with us and talk about his experiences. He actually works in a fairly awakened business right now, and he will share his experience with working on such awakened businesses and how to bring that to all businesses, this awakening. This is what we are talking about when we say quantum leadership. So look for us again the next week. Hope you will join us and hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was really good. Thank you for being with us. See you next week.